There's people who don't understand us. Well, why can't this and why can't that and why can't he? You know, it's like, no, you don't understand. It's coming.
My name's Cody McClellan, and this is my story from the Keweenaw. I was born in Marquette, Michigan on November 10th, 2003.
I'll never forget the first time we saw him. They had him in a little stroller thing, and just a little tiny guy. Only two things I ever wanted to be in my life, and that was a husband and a father, so I got to be that. And the first thing we were told was he had a level 4 brain bleed, just a condition from him being born 9 weeks premature. At the ICU there was a doctor who was a pediatric neurologist from Detroit. And he says, I can't guarantee anything, of course, but I just got a feeling, take him home, love him up, and he'll be just fine. So like, all right, because we didn't know if he'd ever walk or talk or anything. So we brought him home and just loved him up.
I was brought home by my adopted family and raised in the Keweenaw. I was a very active kid growing up.
Active, social, yeah, he was just incredible. Just, you know, everywhere we went, everything we did, he did, you know, no issues.
As a family, we went on a lot of road trips, camping trips, hiking adventures, played local tourists. After my first concussion caused by skiing, a lot of trauma unfortunately followed. On a black diamond that I chose to do, I smacked a tree. I continued skiing that day, not knowing I had a concussion. I thought I was fine and thought I just had a headache, but until I got home that night and dizzy spells started happening, and that's when I was worried. A month after the concussion, my family and I made a trip to Duluth, Minnesota to visit my grandparents. The second night at my grandparents' house, I was extremely panicky and didn't really know where I was, which then made my heart go way higher than it should have and sent me into the ER. The doctor in the ER had asked me if I had been hit or if I remembered getting hit by anything, and I had brought up the skiing incident because that's the most recent thing I could remember. And he had said that I probably just had a concussion and didn't realize it. Coming back to the Keweenaw, the dizzy spells continued, sent me back to the doctor where I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression.
There's definite long-term effects from concussions that we had no idea about.
I was only able to sit in the classroom for about 2 hours of every day before I had to call out. This eventually led to my mom being extremely concerned as to why I could only get through 2 hours of school, and me not being able to fully describe what I was feeling made it even more difficult. After I was diagnosed with the anxiety and depression, I was put on multiple prescriptions. Little did I know the prescriptions would just make all of my issues worse. After 2 more concussions, the symptoms and issues were still the same, which kept me going back to the doctor about every day, it seemed. I discovered photography in 2018, just scrolling on Instagram, and I had my little tablet, which is what started it all. And I came across a fellow Upper Peninsula creative, Elliot Kennedy, based out of Marquette. One of his photos that he had on his page really clicked with me. After that, I started watching videos and tutorials online on how to get into it and build a community, because that's what he was doing, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I started just using my tablet and going outside and wherever I wanted and took some self-portraits. At this stage, there were only a few days of the week I would be able to get through a full day of school, and still on the medication. It was miserable for me because I didn't know what I was doing, who was talking to me. I would forget everything. I couldn't remember to do homework. And then you add negative people on top of it, and plastering my face with a bad reputation on the side of it for their joy was absolutely miserable.
And that's where problems started. Kids, I don't know, they just, maybe because of a newcomer, I don't know why they pick on somebody, but the bullying thing, and I don't understand bullying, but anyhow, it had a devastating effect on Cody, and we pulled him out, and it just, things spiraled downhill from there. You know, he went through depression and anxiety, which were things that I didn't understand, and Cody didn't know how to explain it to us, and we had some tough times.
And well, the quote goes, hurt people, it couldn't be more true because I lashed out eventually. Around this same time, I started gaining a ton of weight. Well, when you have no friends and your brain is yelling at you every second, you wake up and hate everything. Yourself, your family, your house, your hometown, everyone in your school, every teacher you have. So I eventually ended up turning to food and only food as my tool. I would try to still post here and there and try to just even create something, even if it was in the backyard. Unfortunately, with the looping thoughts, I would publish the photos and then take them down because perfectionism and self-hate popped into my mind with every ounce of everything that I did. Food still was my tool, and that cycle continued. This also led to people being a little upset and mad that I would continue to just post, delete, post, delete, post, delete, and I lost a bunch of people. So, which I understand, because they didn't know the story, and it's a tough thing to try to explain. Not really being in school, I was put online, and eventually they switched me to a program that would get me to be able to graduate on time. That really saved my life. So, the end of 10th grade, I was, because of the eating issues and the medications, around 300 pounds. It kept getting worse too. Actually, I think at one point it got to around 305. And I was just engulfed in every way, mentally, physically, emotionally.
So painful to watch because it wasn't who Cody was, and he just pulled into himself.
Just completely lost. So I finally made up my mind and made a big decision and decided to try slowly coming off of my meds.
It was just this isn't working. It wasn't like we had an epiphany one day that, oh, we're gonna try this and that would be better. It was just, we knew what wasn't working, so okay, let's stop doing that.
It was definitely not an easy process. The thoughts got worse and scary. Lost my creative spark completely. My thought process was that I didn't deserve anything anymore. Not even an opportunity to continue life. Working through these dark times, using different forms of therapy, I was finally feeling better about myself and about my life, and started to slowly realize that I do have somewhat of a purpose here, and I don't know what it is, but I'm just going with the flow and seeing where life goes. Almost like God was saying to keep trying my best and do what I can. Eventually, that sparked the idea to start getting healthier in every aspect. So I specifically started to focus more on my nutrition and got into fitness a little bit and started losing weight and seeing results, and then just getting happier, and that continued and continued.
As you could see the changes, his mental attitude changed towards himself too, and he just kept getting better and better and better. We just challenged ourselves how long we could go on the treadmill, at what elevation, and a little competition, but we never went to a gym. Just, Cody ran up and down the steps at home. We had some weights and the treadmill and doing push-ups and just cardio. So yeah, he dropped almost 100 pounds. I dropped close to 40.
And my mindset shifted on everything, and my creative spark came back.
It's like, yes, thank you, God, because it's like there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can see progress going this way instead of going backwards, for him. Because if he'd have kept withdrawing in his shell, if we had not gotten out the medication and that, who knows?
I started by just going on walks around the neighborhood and getting outside more, and I noticed my mood and attitude started to change, and with that creative spark coming back, I did bring my camera with me a few times, and I fell in love with that again, which was the coolest thing ever because I thought I had lost it. But eventually I built a little bit of a portfolio with that and got things moving again and started regrowing my platforms and rebranding.
Besides the physical activity, I think there is actually something to being out in nature. We've got the beautiful hiking trails right here in Chassel, and you get out there and you're among the trees, and I don't know if it's an energy or a lack of noise pollution. I don't know what it is. There's some serenity that it's just like, man, I could just live right here in this, you know. Can we just stay here for a little while? But yeah, you just feel better. You know, we've gone Estevan Pines, Okundikan Falls, you know, some major hikes. Too many people spend too much time doing this, you know, and they get, I think they get too secluded. Where you get outside, I mean, look at, you got this whole lake here, and it's bigger than any of us, and it kind of puts you into perspective too. That, you know, I'm just a little tiny grain of sand in this whole thing, and you really open yourself up here, you know, on your journey. But if you could help one person with that, you know, one person, it's worth all the pain.
I've been off my medications now for coming up on 2 years, and I'm very happy. I noticed I started to shift and became, ta-da, me. My hope and reason for also wanting to sit down and tell this story is because I think, one, I've never really shared it before, and two, I finally had the self-awareness to realize that I really have been through a lot, and that if I can get here, so can you.
He turned out to be a phenomenal kid. I am just extremely proud of him. And that's what kind of started this whole video here, is that, you know, if we can help one person who's struggling, saying, you know, what's going on with me? I don't know, I don't understand. There is a way. There is a way.